Hi, I'm Professor Leah Ruppanner. As a sociologist, I've made it my life's mission to take down every ridiculous gender myth out there. Like, do pretty people get paid more, or are women better multitaskers? This is MissPerceived.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to MissPerceived. On today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about the question, is it actually your fault, or did society make you do it? Now, I don't know if you know, I've told you a million times, I'm a sociologist, right? And this is what I have been trained to do, and my academic background is as sociology. I did a sociology undergrad. I got a PhD in sociology. This is my training. Now, for many of you in the audience, you're probably thinking, what the heck is sociology? You're not alone in asking me this question. Anytime I say, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Leah Ruppanner. What do you do? And they tell me, I'm a dentist, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a plumber, or whatever the answer is. And then I say, oh, I'm a sociologist. Usually the response is like, oh, yeah, I really am interested in psychology. I took a psychology class once. No one knows what sociology is, not even sociologists. Just kidding. We do. But this is a discipline that actually, I think many of you maybe took an intro to sociology class or thought about taking it or slept through it as an undergraduate, but it's hard to know what exactly is sociology. Sociology, unlike psychology, we're not psychologists, but we're interested in how do the systems and structures around us shape our behavior. We like to think that we are totally autonomous people moving through the world, doing what we want, when we want, as we want. But this isn't really true. Sometimes, yes, you are, but usually you're operating through a system of norms, expectations, social roles, and that structures how you behave, how much agency you have, how much ability you have to walk through the world exactly as you want to be. And one of the things that sociology is really good at is helping us shine a giant spotlight onto the ways in which social norms or society makes us do things. It's not your fault sometimes, because often society makes you do stuff. In my book, Drained, Reduce Your Mental Load to Do Less and Be More, which will be out in April, one of the chapters, it was my favorite, y'all. I just want to tell you, I just finished recording the audiobook, so you will be able to hear me speak into your ears for 11 hours straight, narrating the book. You are welcome. Can't wait to hear how much you fall in love with me again. It was like a very interesting moment because I was there with Michael Bublé in the studio. Can you believe it? Don't you think he was thinking, wow, I can't believe I'm here with Leah Ruppanner. He was recording an album while I was there. I was recording my audiobook. He didn't know he had a brush with fame, but I did. But in recording this, one of the most beautiful things that happened was I got to tell everybody about sociology. One of the chapters that's my key and most favorite chapters is talking about what the heck is sociology anyway? You're not the first person to ask me this. I've been asked across my life by even people that are very close to me, very close and very good friends. But in addition to that, all the ways in which social norms structure or limit our ability to step into the world in our greatest, fullest, most impressive ways. What social norms do, or expectations or social roles, like we coined the idea of role model. This is a sociological term. So if you ever think about who do I role model, you're using sociology in that moment. But one of the things I want you to think about is the way in which social norms kind of overlay your actions. They create within your mind and your behavior expectations of I must, what if, and I should. There are a few social norms that absolutely trap men and women into social roles and ask us to behave in ways that are probably not aligned with our true soul. The first is that we're really good at multitasking. This is an idea that's a total myth. Sociologists don't test this, but it's this idea that you actually are an excellent multitasker. You can do multiple things at once. And hey, actually women, turns out, have these brains that are exceptionally good at multitasking. The problem is that this is a total lie. There is clear research that's coming from other areas, science, showing that actually none of us are good at multitasking. We actually cannot multitask. It doesn't work. Our brains can't do two things at once. What we're really good at is task switching. We're good at moving between one task to the next quickly. But even when we do that, it takes a drain. It actually impacts your cognitive load. You get slower. You're more likely to make mistakes. You need to recover. So you feel like you're multitasking because you're moving across quickly, but you're not. Now, why is this a problem? Well, if we tell people that, women are really good at multitaskers, they're excellent at keeping track of the family stuff, they're excellent at keeping track of the work stuff, they are just superior, then all you're doing is loading women up with more work to their detriment, to their exhaustion, to their overwhelm, to their levels of burnout. If you have that shrouding your decision making and you're thinking, I am excellent at this, but I am so fucking tired. The problem is you've internalized a social norm about what women and men are and are not good at that actually is a lie. And that's going to impact your ability to move through the world with agency, with your ability to do what you want as you want to do it. And it also means that you're much more likely to get assigned, the office housework, the monitoring of birthdays in the office, making sure that babies, when a coworker has when a coworker has a baby, they get a gift. That work then comes to women both at home and at work, and they feel like they should be superhuman at doing it. They feel like they actually are excellent multitaskers and therefore very good home managers and therefore can handle it all. And sometimes you can, and that feeling makes you feel exceptional. That's great. But sometimes you can't. And then all of a sudden you feel like you are personally a failure. You've done something wrong. You are actually incompetent. You lack the skills. And what I'm saying to you is, no, you've been sold a social lie. You've been told since birth that we're good at multitasking and women are particularly good. And so when you fall flat on that because you are actually a human and no one is good at multitasking, you feel like a failure. You feel like you have personally failed. And I'm here as a sociologist to say to you, it's not you. Society made you do that. You are not a failure. No one can multitask. And in fact, the fact that you have been multitasking all of this up until this point shows you're superhuman. Because most people can't. So let's pat yourself on the back for doing that and then reallocate the work. And don't you dare for a minute feel like a failure. Let me talk to you about one more social norm that's been going around. It's making all the rounds on the interweb, on the socials. This is the idea that for women to have a perfect house makes them a good person. And that if your house is nothing but perfect and someone comes back in, you're going to be judged. I've talked to you across the podcast about this being a social norm. This is internalized, right? This idea that we need to be perfect. We need to be good. We need to have clean homes and well-coiffed children. Is that how you say that word, coiffed, or is it coiffed? Either way, your kid needs to be both, coiffed and coiffed. And we don't know what coiffed is, but your kid needs to be it. There'll be some Instagram trend that shows that actually now that's what your child has to be. That's an incredible amount of social pressure on you that's coming from a social norm that actually is not true. People believe it, people internalize it, but it's not true. What it also does, and this is the parallel point of actually telling mothers that they need to be perfect, that everything that happens in the home is a reflection of them, is that it pushes dads out. It pushes men out of the care. It pushes men into different roles. And it denies them access to the beauty, love, and experience of being present for your children, of being a co-contributor to the house, of being an equal partner, of supporting your partner or wife in ways that are incredible. What it also does, it makes it very difficult for us to have conversations with each other because we don't live in the same social worlds. That my experiences as I move through the world as a woman, and in particular as a white woman with privilege, right? With a high education, with a degree, my experience is going to be totally different than someone who moves through the world without those attributes. This is what sociology talks about, the ways in which structures, schools, families, workplaces, us as a collective group treat each other different based on our socialized expectations of what I am supposed to be as a woman who is white with a PhD who lives in the US, fill in the blank. that we move through the world and we treat each other different. That happens from childhood, right? We get socialized into these roles, and socialization is just shorthand. It's just so that we can make decisions quicker. Because if we actually stopped and paused and said, hey, we actually don't believe that everyone who is of a certain gender acts this way. We actually reject the idea that different racial groups align with stereotypes. I actually don't believe that, men are bumbling, incompetent caregivers. I reject that social norm. We have to then see the world. We have to treat people differently. We have to create a more open mindset, curiosity, lack of judgment, not quick to react, move through the world, which is harder because judgment, reaction, socialization, fixed mindsets, that's easy. That's easy to do because we anticipate the outcome. But if we have to erode some of that, especially because they're damaging, the result of that is that you have to be more open. You have to anticipate that there's going to be variation in people based on their personhood rather than their race or their gender or their parental status or their caregiving status, right? So we want to see the ways in which groups look similar, but also groups look different and variation between. And we create social norms, and then we create families, and then we create schools, and then we create governments that reinforce these kind of norms. So what I want you to think about as you start to think about, hey, what is the world I want to be in? What's the world I want to create? Why does this feel so freaking hard? Is part of it is you're living in outdated, inaccurate social norms. Part of it is that you're being told that you as an individual are solely responsible for doing all this stuff. And if you don't, you're a failure. But what you're missing is the ways in which our norms and our institutions haven't changed very much with the ways in which we've changed. They get stuck. They get stuck in old models. They get stuck in old ways of thinking. They get stuck in old norms. And we trade these with each other when we say to each other things like, oh, women are really good multitaskers. Or we trade them when we say, you're being overly zealous for thinking that people are going to come judge you for your house. Or when we make offhand comments about like, oh yeah, men can never change the diaper. These are all kind of outdated social norms that make us feel like we are personally responsible for the ways in which we've been socialized to move through the world. This is using sociology as your superpower. This is the power to identify when you are individually responsible because of your personality, because of, misbehavior. Sometimes it's true. Girl, I'm here to tell you, sometimes you did the wrong thing. Sometimes I do the wrong thing. Sometimes I make mistakes because I am not perfect. I make many mistakes. Honestly, I'm making mistakes all the time because I am not perfect. But to make a mistake is to be human and it's to grow. It's when I get told that, how dare I? Because I shouldn't have done that, because I should know better, because I'm a woman or I'm a X or a Y or a Z. And so how dare I fail because I'm broken? You're not broken. Sometimes you do have to take responsibility. Yes, sometimes you do things wrong, but sometimes you actually feel like you're carrying the personal responsibility for social norms that actually are outdated and don't work for you. This is what sociology can do for you. This is not what psychology does. Psychology, we love you. Thank you for helping us figure out our brains. But sociology is saying you can have that brain, but the social structures around you are telling you what to think and how to work and how to operate. And sometimes you're internalizing some bullshit. So let's take a moment. Can you come back to me? I would love for you I want you to think about this. So sorry. I hope A, your mind has been blown. Thank you. You're welcome. Congratulations. Start thinking about this. B, as you move through the world with a sociological mindset, with a sociological inquiry, where you start to pause and go, do I really want to do this? Or have I been socialized into social norms that tell me I should do this? Is this really my responsibility? Or have I been socialized into norms that tell me that I should be perfect at this, or I should be achieving in this? As you move through that world, can you send me back either to my socials or, you can find me online in an email or on my LinkedIn. Can you tell me when you have those aha moments? I would love, love, love to learn them. Can you share them back for me? Because what happens is once you start to take the blindfold off, when you start to see the world in this way, it's hard to feel like you are personally a failure. It's hard to see that everything is actually your responsibility to fix and your responsibility to be at fault. And you can start to take some of this weight off of the what ifs, the shoulds, and the musts. Because sometimes you shouldn't, and the what ifs aren't going to happen, and you must not. You'll find all of this in my book, Drained, Reduce Your Mental Load to Do Less and Be More. There's a whole chapter on it. It's so beautiful. You can read it, or if you did get the audiobook, I'll narrate it for you. But I want to know, I've identified some of these for you. Multitasking, momager, this expectation that men are bad at caregiving, but the social norms are plentiful. So tell me what is resonating for you. Send me your aha moments, because y'all, I'm going to have to write a second book at one point. So I'd love to share through your stories if you can. As per usual, thank you so much for listening to MissPerceived, where you don't need a PhD. You just get to come hang out with me, and I can teach you what is sociology. You're welcome. You don't even have to do that anymore. Just kidding. Take all the classes. Have a wonderful week. I love you, and may you walk through the world with sociology as your superpower. We are so lucky and grateful that this series is being supported by the Melbourne Public Humanities Initiative at the University of Melbourne.